Hi, it's me again, and today I have a small tiny unboxing. Well, it's not even a box, it's so small, it's a tiny unpackaging. I have some beads that I've been wanting to talk about, and so I hope you enjoy this little educational thing about antique and vintage and some modern beads. So I have a number of treasures I'll be going over shortly, but at first I just got this today, and it's from one of my favorite places. I wanted to grab these because they are actual antique beads. Hey, thanks, Willow. You're welcome, Happy Mango Beads. And I do have some of these already, but I don't hoard them exactly. But, you know, I have an appreciation of these beyond just they're neat old things. These are antique white heart beads in one of my favorite colors, red. And they're a little bit smaller than ones I already have, which is a good thing because now I have a variety of sizes to choose from and work with. So they're called white hearts because, as you may guess, they have a white center. What's really cool about these is that the red is a translucent or a transparent red. So you see the white lining and the red over that. It gives it this almost kind of a pomegranate seed sort of look to them. Other things that I have that are, some are old, some are not. So let's take a look at some of these treasures. So here's my, I call it my native drawer, because when I'm making things specifically related to native peoples of this area, I keep them in that drawer, including I've got some pine nuts that I make pine nut beads, and here's my little removal of the meat of the pine nut bead. I grind the ends off and then use a paper clip to push the nut meat out of there, and then I got a bead. Hey, just like would have been on a necklace such as this. This is a necklace that I actually purchased at the Sun Sun Woe store in Coulterville, and I immediately recognized it as local native made because this is a very, very typical style of Central California. It's got the pine nut beads, this shape in particular, this wide rectangle with the fringes, it almost looks like a rain cloud, and then the dentalium shells. These are probably actually modern ones, and I do have some of those, and these new dentalium shells come from China and Asia, but they're almost exactly identical to dentalium shells that would have been found in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, and along the coast, and then traded through the trade routes. But I wanted to show you this guy because, you know, again, it's a typical example of a, you know, native California style necklace. It also uses a nylon line to tie it together, so I know it can't be very old. It's probably, you know, maybe 20 years old, 30 years old, regardless. It's neat that I got it in Coulterville. I love this necklace. I wear it at every opportunity as appropriate. That is related to the white heart beads. And the ones that I have already, they're very much larger than the ones I just got, which, you know, which is great because then I've got different choices. These are a little bit darker of a red. Let's see if I can get a better shot of these guys in the drawer, in the tray. And then I've got these are modern. They're called Pomo shell, but I mean really it's abalone. These are modern, so I mix those. These are olive shells. You can find these all over the place along the west coast of California. That's another historically an important decoration for the Central California people, well, and throughout California along the coast, wherever these were abundant, they would make necklaces. Here's a modern necklace I put together of olive shells that I found along the beach myself. So the tradition continues, but I also have something very rare and special, olive shells that and some olive shell beads here in the center. And these are from a shell mound burial site that in the San Francisco Bay Area, they would mound up shells, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of shells into a huge pile. Wherever there was an important funeral of, you know, a chief, an important person, they would just mound up just thousands and thousands of shells. And one of these was excavated in part by a former archaeology teacher that I had in college. And he saw my interest in things like this, and he said, you know, I've been holding on to these. I'm going to pass these on to you. You know, you will appreciate these, and I absolutely do. And I've been very careful with these ever since. This stone I just put on here, I've used some milkweed twine just to make a pre-contact style necklace here. Now what's interesting is that you can see the difference between what would be a modern shell, this is how it's very shiny and has a nice brown color to it, and a historic shell, which is much more chalky. It's losing its shine, it's relatively fragile, and this is just through age and time. So you can tell that these shells are hundreds, if not thousands of years old. There's black ones in here. These are even more special because these were purposefully blackened in a fire to give them a black color. This is pre-contact beads. Before they had, you know, pretty shiny glass red and blue and all the different colors. This is how they would, you know, make something not the typical color. They would burn it to make it black, you know, and add some interest to a necklace or dress fringe or whatever you wanted to add ornamentation to. So that's another special thing. Next to that, I have a necklace that I made in part. I made the center abalone piece, but these clam disc beads, these are typical of the Pomo, and they were used as money. You can see how regular they are. These are made by a gentleman. I got these at Coulterville one year out at the coast, which is in Marin County, north of San Francisco. I got very, very few of these. This is pretty much all I got. I mean, they're you know, handmade. They're very expensive. They would drill them, put them on a stick, and then just keep rolling them on a you know, a piece of sandstone to get them until finally they would be round and smooth and nice, and you could make a necklace out of them. The early trade beads, when they first started getting glass beads, you know, with the white hearts. I also have modern that I'm keeping separate because I know that these are recent purchases. I bought these as new, and I know that they're not old. These and these and these I know are old, so I'm keeping them separate so I don't, because, you know, 20 years from now I may forget what's old and what's not, so I'm keeping them apart so that I'm sure. So here's another necklace that I have that I strung this together, but you may recognize these chevron beads. These are different layers of glass, and then when they are, you know, the ends are sanded down to make that kind of barrel shape, it reveals the layer of glass inside. And this is, when I got this, I think it was like maybe, I can't remember what I paid for this bead. It was maybe $20, something like that. Nowadays, this same bead probably would be going for more like $60 to $80, so the price has really gone up on these. I also have a couple of antique old feather beads. That was another popular type of trade bead in California. And I have a couple of old feather beads on the necklace that I do wear on occasion. I have some new modern feather beads, which honestly, I've gotten some better ones, and I'll show you those in a second. And I think I may restring this because I've just never been a big fan of these modern feather beads. You can see the difference in craftsmanship, right? I mean, they're like only sort of, you know, they're not very vibrant. There's not very many stripes as compared to, you can see the contrast right there of the two, right? The old antique one and the modern one from, I don't know, you know, 1980 or something like that. I have a few more chevrons in descending size, and then some big white hearts, and then I go down to the little white hearts at the top. That's also one of my favorite necklaces that I thought I would share. Here's some from Happy Mango, again, that same company, that I think are a better feather bead. Let me pull some of these out. I think these are much closer. They're still not quite the delicacy and quality of these antique ones, but I think they look much better than, whoops, I think they look much better than these guys. Wouldn't you agree? So I'm going to replace, now that I'm looking at them together, it's like, oh, you know what? I probably am going to replace these 4 with some of these and pick out some really, really good ones of those, because they're all a little different, right? And then here's a lot of modern chevrons. And I have some black ones in here, but made the same way as in antique times, where they would do different layers of the colors of glass and then grind away the ends to reveal the chevrons on the ends. So before I get over to the other type of bead I was going to talk about today, I just wanted to show another abalone shape, very typical again of California Indians. This was made by a grandson of Julia Parker, and I wish I could remember what his name is. I'm so sorry. I can't remember which grandson it was. But I bought this from him at a big time. We call them big times in California, not powwows. So the California local gatherings would be called big times, and I bought this from him. And he was looking at, and there's little tiny clam beads, and he's like, do you think people would like these? I'm like, yeah, I would like those, and also I'm going to buy this from you right now. But that's a typical shape also, so you've got the, you know, rectangular abalone, and this is sort of a leaf shape, and then the little triangle danglies, another big rectangle shape, these sort of oval rectangles, lozenges. And sometimes they would actually display them this way to show the red color, because again, I mean, when you only have black and white, adding red is really exciting. If you don't want yet more pale, you can just flip it over and hey, now you've got red. And it's a similar color to flicker feathers, which were used in a lot of dance regalia, and still are, I shouldn't say were, which are used in a lot of dance regalia, such as the headband you may be seeing in museums if you frequent them. So one more thing that I want to show you is actually as a result of working in the Coulterville Museum in the Barrett Room. 3 strands of these beads were found, and you can see there's occasionally another one thrown in there, but these are, I puzzled over these for a long time. I couldn't figure out what they could be from. They're not very nice on the edges. They're a little bit sharp. They're a little thin. They can tend to break. You know, if you're not careful, they can you know, chip because the glass is so thin. And I had a strand, this strand, that I recognized as being old glass, and I was able to exactly match the amber with the amber ones, the green ones with the green ones. They have a little texture to them. These blue ones are kind of a satin, and the same thing, there's a white in here. And it was like, these are exactly the same, except mine are shorter and have some pink-lined clear glass ones. There aren't any pink lined on this strand. But in doing some research, I think what I've discovered is that they were used for Victorian lampshade fringe. So they weren't meant to be worn necessarily. Obviously, you know, if a native person saw these dark green or these gold ones or these pink ones, we're like, I gotta have those. I'm gonna put these on a dress fringe. Then of course they would have bought that and purposed that for that. But I have these strands of, I have 3 strands of these that were in the Barrett collection that kind of nobody knew what to do with, and we have other things that are similar. So they were put up for sale at a fundraiser event. So some money went to the museum. I got 3 strands of antique beads that nobody else knew what to do with, so I'm going to make some cool stuff with these. So I hope that was a little fun tour through some historic and antique and vintage beads, both native made and glass type. So next time you're out there, out and about, and you find, you know, something like these, you know, at your local antique store, you will now have an eye for what those might be, and have a better appreciation of those types of beads. So Subscribe and like and hit the notification bell so that you know when I post another video. I have other different new series that you might want to check out over on the side there. The more you interact with my channel, the more people see it, and the more people will find out cool stuff about vintage and homestead and antiques and other things of that nature that I talk about on this series of videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time on Willow's Vintage Homestead.